Good morning and welcome back to the lecture series. We are talking about tragedy and comic absurdity novel in the context of Gustave Flaubert's Madame Bovary. We are talking about tragedy and comic absurdity novel in the context of Gustave Flaubert's Madame Bovary. So, according to Roy Chandler Calwell's essay Madame Bovary's Last Laugh, Emma's laughter at the book's conclusion suggests that her laughter is a key component of the tragic and comic absurdity. Calwell would say, I quote, her laughter towards the end has become an excess of energy, a gratuitous and wasteful expense of vital force, a boastful and excessive celebration of life. I will say that I detect in it the prodigality, the monstrosity and the resistance of Bakhtinian laughter, unquote. Emma's laughter is mocking, transgressive, resistant, erotic, scandalous, voluptuous. Flaubert wrote his heroine a laughing death, a death where she laughs, she scoffs at everyone, at the conditions of life, and she is scoffing at the failed life that she has led. So she mocks, pities and almost laughs and cries at herself and at the society that could not contain her. With a laugh, a grotesque death becomes sublime. So the unbearable conditions of living become more bearable in death. In death, you know, there is some kind of relief and some pressure once again that was building up throughout the narrative being released at death. Some beauty that was lost throughout the narrative in the course of the narrative is recuperated through Emma's death. A sense of sublime is recuperated, gathered back, and so nothing in Emma Bovary's life became as much like her as her death. The death, the way she, she cannot live the way she wants to live, but she dies a very theatrical, a very histrionic, dramatic kind of death, and it's very striking the way she dies, and that is that embodies, that justifies her character in a way. So, Tolstoy expressed his admiration for Flaubert in an interview with a French journalist in 1904, where he said, I quote Flaubert, one of my most favorite writers is your incomparable Flaubert. There is a truly magnificent artist, strong, exact, harmonious, full-blooded, perfect. His style is filled with the purest beauty. Can one say this of many writers? Unquote. In the essay Anna Karenina, Tolstoy's polemic with Madame Bovary, Priscilla Meyer makes, approaches or attempts, Priscilla Meyer attempts a comprehensive analysis of the parallels, the analogies between the two texts, Madame Bovary and Anna Karenina. So, another formalist, Russian formalist, Boris Eichenbaum, agrees with other French critics that find traces of Tolstoy's reading of French literature in Anna Karenina. Although he emphasizes, Eichenbaum emphasizes the complexity of Tolstoy's struggle with the tradition of the love novel. So, George Steiner concludes that all that can be said is that Anna Karenina was written in some awareness of its predecessor. And Priscilla Meyer would add, I quote, the novel renders judgment on her referring here to Emma. So, she has transgressed both heavenly and human law, but she has our compassion inasmuch as we are forced to contemplate society's culpability in the adulteress's unresolvable predicament, unquote. As Tony Tanner puts it, the tension between law and sympathy holds this great bourgeois novel together. So the reader moves back and forth in her mind, thinking about the laws, legalities, how this woman is so outrageous, so transgressive, how richly she is betraying her husband. And then one cannot but sympathize with this charming lady, the charming, attractive character that Emma is. So that's the splendor, that's the masterpiece that Madame Bovary is. You know, in Shakespeare's mythologized culture, marriage brings harmony. So at the end comes the grand marriage, which refers to reconciliation, which refers to some sort of climax. But in 19th century society, marriage is the mythology that a novel such as Madame Bovary is trying to demythologize, trying to decipher and kind of unpack marriage as an institution. As though Flaubert is saying through this writing, so much for a marriage. So, Meyer delineates the trajectory between Anna Karenina and Emma Bovary. Emma is hopelessly shallow, she is selfish, shown, I mean, the way we see her through the relationships she shares with her husband and even her daughter, Beth, right? Anna, before her affair with Vronsky, is intelligent, direct, unpretentious, and a devoted mother. So Emma's downfall, like Tatiana's in Eugene Onegin, is caused not by reading romantic novels so much as it is caused because of misreading them, identifying with the heroines in a particularly sensual and indiscriminate way. She tries to become those bookish heroines. Anna, on the other hand, is unable to read her English novel on the train ride home after dancing with Vronsky. She was too eager to live herself, says Tolstoy. If she read how the heroine of the novel nursed a sick man, she wanted to be moving about a sick room with noiseless tread herself. So Meyer further claims that it is possible to understand Anna as an ideal version of Emma. We see that Emma admires and imitates luxury. Anna already has it. Emma once passionate, aristocratic, dashing lover, but finds only imitations, you know, the fox, the fake ones, the fake substitute for Paris, the fake substitute for an aristocratic lover, and so on. Anna gets Emma's wish in Vronsky. Emma wants to be the heroine of a novel. Anna is seen as one by her peers. Emma fantasizes eloping to Italy with pseudo-aristocratic Rodolphe, whereas Anna and the truly aristocratic Vronsky do in fact elope to Italy. So we see some continuation, some adaptation, some influence, some inspiration that has gone from Madame Bovary to make another great work, a timeless work such as Anna Karenina by Tolstoy. So this is to suggest how Tolstoy is working towards isolating and distilling the moral and psychological aspects of adultery for a young married woman, making it simpler and more palatable for his readers, the more conventional readers, purifying the process of adultery, the act of adultery, of the concern with the social status and material luxury that obsesses, and so as a result, we have what we have as a result of this distillation, this purification, is a more intelligent, self-aware heroine in Anna than Emma could ever be. Emma was much more unaware. She was clueless. She was just flowing with the flow, doing what she wanted to do, very impulsive. Uh, Mayer suggests further that in Madame Bovary, the unfulfilled young woman with small child and uninspiring husband who indulges in a series of frenzied romance overtures and finally commits suicide is the obvious point of departure. But something more complex and specific suggests that Tolstoy did have Madame Bovary in mind when he was portraying the character of Anna in Anna Karenina. And so we see in the opera scene where Emma's, the opera scene in Madame Bovary sets the stage for Emma's subsequent extramarital affair. After falling in love with the legendary tenor Legadi, she starts to fantasize about becoming his mistress, and what he gets, as a substitute, as a surrogate experience is Leon, who walks into her box, and her fantasy thereby changes and includes him. So Tolstoy gives Anna various motifs that Flaubert had given Emma in order to describe her. So the relationship, for example, between Vronsky and his racehorse Frau is designed to parallel his relationship with Anna. Emma and Rodolphe's relationship starts when they ride his horses together. So horses and heroines are linked by a bird motif. In Tolstoy's novel, after Frau falls, she begins, as Tolstoy describes, she begins fluttering on the ground like a wounded bird, while Anna in the Stanze is described a few pages later as fluttering like a caged bird. On the other hand, coming back to Madame Bovary, we have Emma described as, so Emma has bird-like step. On the other hand, in Madame Bovary, we have Emma who has bird-like step and swallows dart by when Emma comes to Abbe Bournisien for spiritual guidance. So Rodolphe's house has two swallow-tailed weather vanes, and Emma's dreams are said to drop in the mud like wounded swallows. So this imagery of the swallow recurs in the novel. The bird motif connects the heroines to their adulterous affairs, to the complexity, psychic complexity that they are going through. Flaubert names the coach that takes Emma to ruin for her trysts with Leon the Hirondelle, which means swallow in French. So the imagery of the swallow bird keeps coming back, right? Then the motif of fog, haze, mist is something that both Anna and Emma share. So when Emma takes Rodolphe as a first lover, she's ecstatic. Misty blue immensity lay about her. The scene of her first tryst with Rodolphe is surrounded by mist, from the haze in the poplars to Emma's features that are discernible in a haze of blue through her blue veil. Flaubert also uses the blue haze in his other work, A Simple Heart, just as, Tolstoy's later stories, such as the Cruiser Sonata and The Devil, are a complement of Anna Karenina. They draw on Anna Karenina. Jonathan Culler, in his essay The Realism of Madame Bovary, suggests that the argument for historical reality of the representation depends on Emma Bovary herself as a representation of a historical reality, as a representation of the historical situation of women for whom possibilities had been expanded through the Declaration of the Rights of Women of 1792 and various incipient feminist developments, but who, with the bourgeois reaction and the Second Empire, found that essentially not much had changed, especially for provincial women. The title Madame Bovary, like we have already discussed in our earlier lectures, applied, it symbolizes some kind of incarceration. So almost the title that tries to contain the heroine is a prison, and At the same time, this title, moreover, applies to three women in the novel as a way of defining Emma by a pre-given larger identity or role. So, Emma, in the process of becoming Madame Bovary, is a repetition in this world where nothing more should be expected, nothing will change for her, traditionally speaking. And Flaubert's powerful representation of her ennui, her sense of entrapment, carries great weight for the readers. The meaninglessness, that she tries to chase through her, the alternative identities that she tries to chase through her meaningless ventures, they all shape the layered character that Madame Bovary is. So, modern feminist criticism declines to treat Emma as small and futile, and in fact, the feminists look at the historical condition of women of her day, of Emma's day, when she was created by Flaubert, and they stress that her difficulties come less from some innate foolishness than from her situation as an imaginative woman in a provincial situation, who has no preoccupation, who is deprived of the city life, which could give her more scope, obviously, and she is even deprived of the pen, literacy in a serious sense, as Naomi Score would suggest. So, being literate, having access to pen, to writing, would allow a woman like Madame Bovary to exploit her imaginations, her excesses, however cliched they could very well have been translated into some romantic novels. She could have very well become a writer of romance novels, for instance, instead of transforming into an adulteress. So, Stephen Heath argues that although Flaubert had no interest in the emancipation of women or other progressive movements, simply he takes and defines his realism, the reality of the social world, from women, from Emma, grasps her as the key point for the interrogation of that world, the demonstration of its oppressive mediocrity. So, Emma is through and through a kind of a comeback on this oppressive mediocrity. The reader's critical lens that Emma is subjected to does not hesitate to pronounce her at times as a small-minded woman in various respects, someone who is interested and who serves only her own pleasure, for instance. So her increasing boldness in her affair with Leon, where she can, exhibit her agency, is not seen as a development that readers are encouraged to take as normative. So, although she becomes an agent by the time she has an affair with Leon, that is non-normative, that is an agency in a woman considered as exceptional, anomalous, and not part of what the social values, the gendered values taught women at that point in time. So, as Heath suggests, Emma's despair and anger at the world of Tostes and Yonville comes from the resistance that her immediate cosmos offers to the romantic possibilities that she imagines. So, her point of view, her impatience can be a source of realism, although she does her best to avoid anything like realism. So it is maybe her impatience is being generated as a result of the way her society is. Some critics, like I said, like Heath, would say that the inspiration is not coming straight from the books she read, but it's a kind of a resistance, it's a way of getting back at a reaction to the limitations that a provincial society impose on a free-minded woman such as Emma. Many critics see Emma as the female Don Quixote. That's a very popular and common way of looking at her. Her readings of romantic literature creates a rupture between the fictional and the physical world. Her search for an ideal and the astigmatic vision that she develops results in a series of fiascos, just like in the case of Don Quixote. While Don Quixote is a struggle between residual and dominant traditions, one could say that Madame Bovary is a struggle between dominant and emergent traditions. So in other words, she's ahead of her times. Emma is ahead of her times, and she cannot fit into the dominant values of her society, the society where she is created, and she defines the emergent characteristics that do not find immediate acceptance in either her society or the society where Flaubert is sitting and writing. As a result of this novel, as a result of writing this novel, Flaubert is dragged into legalities. He has to face law. He is booked by law. So, Madame Bovary can be seen as an alter ego of Flaubert. So, Chez Perez writes that it's time to dive into Madame Bovary to talk about the absurd. It was mentioned that Quixotic feats walk a tightrope in which the weights of the heroic and the absurd are balanced. The absurd points out a lack of coherence and correspondence. It goes against reason and the way in which it perceives reality. Madame Bovary in many ways is like Don Quixote, who is another archetypal reading hero, who has greatly influenced the subsequent literary traditions that followed after Cervantes's quintessential novel. The two characters, Madame Bovary and Don Quixote, their reading habits corrupt their vision of the world and their conduct of life, and they are both out and out, through and through romantics, right? A very romanticized vision of the world, and they suffer because of that. Don Quixote desired to make provincial La Mancha into a battlefield of giants, demons and ladies in distress. Emma Bovary desires to be happy in exquisite clothes, in swift carriages, dancing at balls, being admired. Both live vicarious lives straight out of books, and they live by some hyperbolic definitions of life, something that cannot be matched up with the provincial environment where they are born. So they want to outgrow the canvas of the provinces where they belong, right, and become something else. The idealized world Emma proposes has a better chance of success than that of Don Quixote, because the reality that she seeks is timeless. It is part of a collective imaginary of a desire that both men and women of all ages of history have longed for, right? So, although we see them as transgressive, as mad, as people full of excess, unacceptable, tampering with social values, they represent the collective imaginary, the collective desire that people across time and space harbor in them. So, the reality, the idealized world's reality, responds to a need common to any society in the world. So, when we look at an idealized world, we realize that it is, it's so important to have such a world, at least a vision of such a world, and the need of such an idealized world, even if it belongs to someone's fantasy, is common to any society in any given period of time. So, Madame Bovary's ideal is fully identified from the position of a lazy, indolent and unoccupied life, which creates a brilliant mirage, confusing true with fantasy, true with dream, and that prevents Emma from accepting the reality, the concrete reality as it is. Emma is deceived by what is nothing but illusion. So, Emma's role in the novel is to embody the femme fatale, to represent doom wherever she goes, even though the decisions she makes lead only to her self-destruction. She is not destroying others, she is not destroying the society. Life carries on, only she is gone. After she commits suicide, the society goes on in her absence, right? Her family lives. So, she has only inflicted destruction to herself, not to anyone else. Although her death does affect her husband and even indirectly her daughter, between the work of Cervantes's Don Quixote and Flaubert's Madame Bovary, we see two chaotic worlds emerging where the clash of realities is what makes up the entire narrative and makes up the protagonist. The grain of their character lies in that alterity, that alternative, those alternative possibilities they posited. Emma demands of the world to give her what she lacks, what she needs in order to achieve her happiness. And this is a little unlike Don Quixote, who has an unusual strength for reality to bend before him. So Don Quixote, like I have already said in our discussions of Don Quixote earlier, that he is also representing the thinking man, right? So he has the strength to bend reality before him in a continuous tug of war between reality and fantasy, the world of Renaissance and the world of romance. So, as Deleuze explains, and I quote, nonsense is what opposes meaning in a simple relationship with it, to the point that the absurd is always defined by a defect of meaning, a lack, unquote. So, we see that our reading would be very limited. Our reading of such timeless great characters, written by Cervantes and Flaubert would be flawed if we were to juxtapose them vis-a-vis the conventional notions of good, bad, right, wrong, sanity, insanity. It's a very simplistic understanding to oppose such characters with immense possibilities. It would be a wrong way of judging or reading them if we said that they are simply anomalous. They are, they are not the way the society not the way the society prescribes. If we try to define them in terms of the should nots, the have nots, we need to appreciate what they have, what they can become, what they want to become, and also empathize with what they cannot become thereby, right? What they cannot, what they strive to be but cannot be. So, they have their own parameters, their own vision, their own way of existence and alternative meaning of life. So, it would be very, it would be a sort of injustice to read such timeless great characters as Don Quixote and Madame Bovary through the prism, through the lens that is offered by our prosaic world, our quotidian mediocre standards of existence. With this, I am going to stop today's discussion today, and we will meet again with a new text and a new reading in our subsequent lectures, in our next lecture. So, we will meet again with a new text and new readings, new perspectives in our next lecture. Thank you.